Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started, and would like to welcome all of you here today. It's nice to have the students from the orchestra program here and parents as well. And we'll go ahead and get started by beginning with roll call. We have Dell Hansen, who is our business administrator, having a hard time talking today. Terry Rhodes, board member. Jeff Nelson, board member. Alan Grunig, board member. I'm Kathy Christiansen, board member. Roger Pulsifer, board member. Our superintendent had a death in his family, so we're excusing him tonight. Superintendent Norton, Randall Bagley, board member, and Larry Jepson, board member. We'd like to begin by doing the pledge and presenting our mission statement, and I will do that tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And our mission statement is to educate students for success in a changing world. And I think we're just going to start right off the bat with our students from the West Strings Chamber Orchestra. Oh, yeah. Just make sure it's on.
Hello? Ooh, whoa. All right, so we're really excited to present to you the Titanium Quartet, and they have been part of the Mountain West String Academy Chamber Music Project. And essentially, Mountain West Strings is the elementary orchestra program for Cache and Logan school districts. However, we do have an outreach program called the Chamber Music Project for 6th graders through 12th grade, where we put them in ensembles and they rehearse with a coach and as a quartet or ensemble for the whole school year. And then they had master classes with the Fry Street Quartet and the Browning Trio from Weber State, and then we culminated the whole event with a competition and an Entertaining with Enzo concert where the Enzo professional string quartet came and we played with all the chamber music students, and there was about 137 students on stage. What's interesting about the Titanium Quartet is all 4 of these members started when they were in 4th grade with Mountain West String Academy, and they were all ambassadors, so they were all in the 5th grade honors orchestra that we do, and they're currently in 7th grade. A lot of places throughout the state, when I go to conferences and when I talk with other orchestra teachers and music educators, they start orchestra in middle school, often in 6th or 7th grade. And so what will be neat about hearing this quartet perform is that in other places around the state, they're just beginning in 7th grade, and these students are in their 4th year playing, and it's incredible to see what they're capable of. We have, and I'll introduce them, and if you'll come up and get your seat while I introduce you so we know who you are. We have Alice Wilkinson on 1st violin, and then we have Callie Lund on 2nd violin, Lauren Bell on viola, and Silas Nebeker on cello. So here's the Titanium Quartet.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Could we have the parents stand of these brilliant students and be recognized? Thank you. I have to tell you that while I was teaching school in the middle school, the teachers were always fighting to have the orchestra and band students in their classes because the skills that they develop in learning a talent like that and performing with an instrument is a lifelong skill that helps them throughout their whole life. So thank you so much, parents, for supporting your children in their endeavors. And will you tell me your name?
Oh, I'm Patty Bartholomew.
Okay, and are you over the...
I'm over Mountain West Street.
Okay, nice job, Patty. We appreciate that. You can just leave those there. Yeah, we'll put them away. Thank you so much. All right, we will move on then on our agenda to public input. Okay, and we will hear from Frank Ashion. Did I get that right? Yes, you did. Okay, and Dale will set up the clock so you can see how much time you have and when your time is running out. We want to welcome you and thank you for coming.
Great, thank you. First of all, I want to thank Kathy and the other members of the board for inviting me to this meeting. And I should tell you that initially I had contacted Steve about some concerns regarding the Youth Risk Behavior Survey and the deletion of a very important question in my estimation. And unfortunately, Steve was called away with a family emergency. And so he referred me to Alan Grunig, who was, I believe, the former chair. Alan, we spoke, Alan.
We did.
How did the fishing go?
The fishing was great, the catching wasn't so good.
Okay. And I spoke with Alan and asked Alan, first of all, if the news reports in the Tribune and the Herald Journal and the Deseret News were accurate, because we all know with fake news these days, you just don't know what's being reported correctly. And so Alan said that yes, the board had decided 2 years ago, I believe, to not include a question on sexual orientation in the youth behavior risk survey. And I asked Alan what the basis for that was, and Alan reported that he had surveyed some individuals in his jurisdiction, and they indicated that they did not really want that question asked of young people. Which, as a developmental psychologist and as someone who has worked in school social work, I was very, very concerned about, because one thing that we know is the more information we have about youth risk behaviors, the better off we're going to be in terms of intervention and prevention programs and the allocation of resources. You want to know where your dangers are and to put your resources there, rather than, if you're strapped for funds, to try and spread things very thinly in a very mediocre way. And so Alan said that, I asked Alan how many people you surveyed, and you indicated that there were 20 that you surveyed. And as a psychologist and someone who took statistics, I knew that that was not the way to survey individuals in a community about what the general feeling is in Cache County School District about an issue as important as this. And so in looking at your vision statement, it says, we pledge to prioritize the students' well-being and to support a culture where students feel appreciated and respected. And I just want to report to you some data from a study that was conducted recently in Ireland. And I provided Kathy with all the references so that you can peruse those at your own time, since I have a limited time period. Is that 32 seconds left?
Yep.
Okay. All right. And this study found that sexual minority youth were nearly 7 times more likely to engage in non-suicidal self-injury. They were 5 times more likely to engage in risk of suicidal ideation. They were almost 8 times more likely than their non-sexual minority youth to have a risk of suicidal intent, and almost a 7 times increase in the risk of a suicide attempt. The children in our community who identify or who are questioning whether they identify as LGBT are clearly at risk. I think that the failure to include that question on the survey does a disservice to all the youth in the state of Utah, because apparently when districts opt to not include a question, it has to be deleted from all of the district's questionnaires. We know that this group is at risk. There is study after study after study. It would seem to me that educators would want to know where these risks are highest, not identifying individual children, because the survey is anonymous. The survey requires parental permission. The survey allows students to not respond to questions that they don't like. They are asked about suicide on this questionnaire, on this risk assessment. And so it seems to me that the board has essentially missed a great opportunity to get more information about a group of young people who are struggling with their own identities and who, by the actions of the board, now realize that their worth is diminished because the board is not even willing to have a question, one question on a questionnaire, anonymously asking young people whether they identify as heterosexual or not heterosexual. And I just cannot, as a psychologist, as a taxpayer, as a parent and a grandparent, I cannot understand the rationale for that, and I've yet to hear one.
Thank you. Where was the information that you sent to me? Was it on the first email that you sent, or did you
It was an
send
attachment to an email.
the only email that you sent to me? Because I guess I just missed it.
I'll resend it.
Oh,
I'll be
that'd
happy to
great.
resend it once I get back
Okay.
home.
All right.
My phone is charging.
Okay, thank you so much,
Great.
Frank.
Thank you.
We appreciate you coming, and that survey will not be considered again for 2 years, but we will look at the information before we discuss it again. Okay, thanks. All right, moving on. The Ridgeline High School School Land Trust Budget Adjustment by Principal Henke.
Good evening.
Hi.
So I'm here to, I need to state my name, Bob Henke, in case I do. Anyway, I'm here to ask for some of the money from trust lands to be moved. We have money for aids in classrooms, and we have extra money that we haven't used, and we'd like to use that for summer school because we lost our summer school funding. So we're asking for $7,000 to just be moved over. So it's still in the same actual classification of salaries.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Do we need to vote on that today? We don't, do we? We don't vote in this meeting? Okay, all right. Any
Okay.
questions? Yeah.
So if you use that for summer school, you can be able to expend that in time so the state doesn't have a problem with carryover? It's gonna be an issue?
That's a good question. I don't know. Will it? The summer school is in June.
Isn't it June
It's in
30th?
June.
The fiscal year ends June,
It is, but I know payroll will actually cut off on
The 10th.
As far as hours submitted. So I don't know if that'll be an issue or not. I don't know if they're typing
Okay, I'd like to amend this year's and next year's so that if we need it for summer school, I don't know. Yeah, so anyway, that's what it's for, so,
Okay, thank you.
okay, all right, thanks.
Are we okay then, Dale? With that? Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and move on then to Mike and the Comprehensive Guidance Program.
Did you say I'm up?
You're up.
Okay. So Dale, when this slide comes up, what do the people out there in internet land see? They're seeing these monitors?
Focuses in so they can see that. I think there's a smaller picture of the school board on the screen, but it does focus mainly on the video screen
Okay,
on the right.
all right.
Yeah, it doesn't actually stream live, so it'll be a recording. They'll see a couple of days.
All right, good. Well, school board, thanks for letting us be on the agenda tonight. This is an annual requirement that we have for our comprehensive guidance program, where we need to have the board just be updated on the actual program itself and the requirements that we
Mike, let
have.
me interrupt you. This has not come up on our computer screen here. Do we just want us to use the board docs?
No, you gotta use the board docs.
Okay, so it's not coming up on the big one. All right.
Yeah. It's in board docs. Can you open it there, Dale? On,
We all have to open it individually.
And that's okay, but just wondering if we could all see.
is there any way they can get that? PowerPoint? Yeah, I thought this would come right up on your screens. Well, should I just proceed and I'll talk from the
Yeah.
slide up here, and while Tim works on that? Okay. But this is an annual requirement where we need to update the board and reaffirm the commitment to the Plan for College and Career Readiness, which is our PCCR process. And we do receive funding from the state to support this program, and I'll go ahead and share that with you here in a few minutes. We do have some of our counselors here with us tonight, and later on, well, in a few minutes, they'll be able to introduce themselves, and you get to know them just a little bit better as well. These are the competencies of the Comprehensive Guidance Program, and I'm going to go over this very quick because I know I don't need to read slides to you, all right? But when these schools have their reviews, they actually upload the program that we presented to the board, and part of their guidance review. These are the components, and one I'd probably point out to you is the very last one there, the system support and non-guidance, those percents. This is probably where I think our district's made more progress in the last few years, is we've been able to have our counselors respond more in the top 3 areas, and I think we're really close to our target areas now in the non-guidance types of areas, so they're spending more time with the students. To qualify to receive these add-on funds for comprehensive guidance, there's requirements that every school has to meet, and comprehensive guidance funds are allocated to all secondary schools that are actually running a comprehensive guidance program, grades 7 through 12. So they have to complete a yearly data project report, and you're going to get a couple of those reports here tonight. They'll take about 3 or 4 minutes, one from Skyview and one from North Cache. Gives you an idea of what a data report looks like that they send to the state. They have to complete a self-evaluation where they sit down as a team of counselors in the school, and they do a self-evaluation that's online, and they're just reflecting about their program. Every 6 years, they have to complete an external review by a team coming out of the state office. And this last year, all of our South End schools went through that external review to include Cache High, and then all of our South End schools that have gone through the transition. Next year, all of our North End schools will be going through this 6-year external review by the state. And then every 3rd year after that, that's an internal type of review with an internal team. Then they have to meet the 7 qualifying standards for the program. There are the 7 standards that they have to address during their reviews, and so their whole program focuses around those 7 standards. And then there's some assurances there on the bottom of the page that we have to assure to the state that we're meeting these assurances. And you can see the very first one there is board adoption. We have to show evidence of that. And so that's part of what we're doing here tonight with the board. Here's the funding that we're actually receiving, Cache School District. This next year, we'll receive nearly $313,000 as a district. That'll be and it's up from the previous year, which is about $271,000. So a pretty good substantial increase for those funds. So how do we break it down in Cache District? We have, every one of our schools are allocated a paraprofessional, 6 hours, 180-day paraprofessional, and that comes right off the top of the funds, the $176,000. Then the remaining funds, we allocate directly to the schools based on their student numbers. And then the schools have most of the say on how they're spending those funds directly. We do have some indirect costs that come along with the program, and then we try to hold on to reserve here in the district, $10,000 to $12,000 just for things that come up that we try to address as a district as a whole for the whole entire comprehensive guidance program. You can see there what the funds can be spent on, and our counselors do a very good job staying within those requirements. This is what we look
Can I ask a
like.
question before you move on?
Yeah.
What do the parapros do? One in each school?
They are assigned directly to the school counseling department, and they are helping the guidance program, those counselors, with whatever secretarial type tasks that those counselors assign that paraprofessional to do. And that varies from school to school. Now, they can answer that very specifically if you want to ask a school what their parapro does. Any of you want to speak up?
Bardette?
Ours runs our career center, does all our scholarships, does a lot of.
Oh, so is that Heather?
Yes, Heather.
Jake, what do they do at North Cache?
It's Darla Lowe, and she runs our career center.
Okay.
Brings the kids in, does some career inventory with them.
Spring Creek's going to tell you.
At the middle school level, also, we don't have a full-time registrar, and so our parapro picks up a lot of the registrar duties as well, and that helps us out with the. So.
Now, are those paraprofessionals the ones that had hours cut?
Well, all their hours have been restored back just like everyone else.
So,
Yeah.
sorry, hand that microphone back to Spring Creek.
Joel. His name's Joel.
Joel, sorry. So does that, when you say registrar, that the parapro acts like a registrar, does that mean that they're counseling students individually?
No, that's like the transferring and receiving of files and inputting students into the computer. Just the secretarial work of getting kids in and out of the school.
Oh, okay. Right. Okay. So they don't do any counseling about you should take this class or that class or whatever? Okay.
No, that's us.
Okay.
Yeah.
We okay? Here's what we look like when we finish our transition. This is what we'll look like next year. We'll have 8 schools. We'll have 24 counselors in those 8 schools. You can see how they're allocated by school. And so all of our counselors have a 198-day contract, and it's usually 2 weeks after school ends and 2 weeks before school begins. That's usually how they break up those additional 3 weeks, but they really have the ability, working with their building principal, on how those other 15 days apply to their contract, where the greatest need is and when it happens. So they're all extended. The elementaries, we receive no funding for elementary counseling. So whenever the counselors that we have right now in elementary, that's strictly, those funds are coming totally in support coming out of district general funds. Here with the secondary, we receive some funds to help secondary comprehensive guidance programs. The state ratio that they want all districts who are receiving these funds to meet is 350 to 1. 350 students to 1 counselor. Now, with our counselor list up there, our projected 17-18 ratio will be 340 to 1. And that's about the first time in many years I can report to the board that we're under the 350. But if we have all the growth that we had last year, we'll bust that again. This year, we're adding 1.5 counselors to our district again just to get to that 340 to 1. So growth definitely plays a factor in this.
Is that for just the middle schools and high schools? Is that the number, 340 to 1? Or is that for everybody?
Yes, no, it's secondary only. That's the requirement we have to meet is grade 7, 12 on that ratio on it. And there again, it lists the parapro. We'll have 8 of them, 1 6-hour, 180-day parapro for each one of our 7-12 schools. And they're in direct support of the comprehensive guidance department. That's how we allocate our funds to the program. We've really made some strong improvements here in our district, and we continue to improve. You can see a lot of information now on schools, on web-based career information, scholarships. The ratio I've already talked about, elementary emergency support. We do have counselors, secondary counselors allocated to our elementary schools if we receive a call and they need special support. They have the tree set up on secondary counselors who would go to that elementary school to help support. So they really work well together to help try to support each other in our program. Now, real quick, North Cache is going to present to you just an idea of, well, their data project for the year. And the school decides with their data project. What are they focusing on? What are they trying to improve? Then they have to report that to the state. And you're getting a glimpse of seeing what North Cache tried to do last year, and then Skyview will quickly do it. And I told them no more than 3 or 4 minutes on their presentation. All right?
All right. One of the things we spend a lot of time as counselors doing is working with students who are failing classes. And also at North Cache, one of the things we're concerned about is the number of 9th graders who fail a course and then move on to the high school already behind in their graduation credits. So this year we decided to evaluate the effectiveness of ourselves, meeting individually with students who had failed grades or had failing grades, failed classes during first trimester, and determine the impact that we made by meeting with students on an individual basis. And so these are our results. Well, maybe I should let you know, when we meet with students individually, we just encourage them to get their work done and turned in and try and help evaluate the barriers that they're having to success and how they can overcome them, and just if there's resources in the school that we can provide for them. And so we had 89 students, 89 9th graders that failed at least one class during first trimester. 2 of those students withdrew during second trimester. So at the end of the trimester, we looked at all of the 87 students to determine how many had failed again. And throughout the trimester, we kept track of how many times we had met with them individually. So this graph, our data, the first set there, there were 7 students who had failed first trimester, and we met with them 4 or more times during second trimester, and all 7 of them failed at least one class again second trimester. So those are typically students who have attendance issues or just apathetic and we couldn't change their mind. The students who we met with 3 times during second trimester, there were 42 of them that failed at least one class during first trimester, and only 25 of those failed a class during second trimester. So 25 repeaters, so that was a drop of 40%. The students that we met with at least 2 times, or met with 2 times, there were 34 of those that had failed a class during first trimester, and only 21 of them failed a class during second trimester. So that was a drop of 38%. And then there were 4 students that we met with just once, and only 1 of them failed a class during second trimester. So that was a drop of 75%. So overall, of the 87 students, 54 of them failed a class again second trimester. So that was a drop of 38% overall. So we felt like our meeting with the students was effective. Any questions?
Yeah, Janine, if you could figure out and package how to get kids to turn their work in, I know there'd be a lot of parents out there that would pay big bucks for that.
Yes, I would be a millionaire if I knew the key to getting all students. So we just keep trying. Each student's different, so they each need different interventions. And so we work with them individually and do our best to help them out.
How did you decide how many times to meet with each student?
Well, our goal was to meet with each of them 3 times. And then just, getting busy with all the PCCRs. Some of them we only met with twice. The ones we only met with once were ones that were doing really well. And, we just felt like they didn't need us. Of course, one of them did end up failing again. But, and the ones we met with 4 times, some of them we even met with more, just trying everything we could to help them out. But we'll keep trying.
Thank you.
Well done, thank you.
Yeah.
On the surface, it looks like you better only meet with them one time because you get better results.
True. I think we'll stick with the 3 times.
All right, my name's Bardette Bagley. I'm a counselor at Skyview High School, and one of the things that we look at a lot at the high school level is, especially the last few years, there's been a big focus on college and career readiness. So we're always looking to get kids to college and get them enrolled in some higher ed situations. We found through some needs assessments and some of our evaluations as we look at our program review that a lot of our minority students we don't have a very high population, but of those, not very many are getting engaged in the higher ed process. The last 2 years, we started this, it's kind of a 3-year project. We started last year. We had about 45, almost 50 minority seniors. And we found our baseline data before that was about only 20% of them, which is only about 7 to 8 of them, are making a campus visit at any time before they go on to college or complete high school. So our hope was that if we can get some kids on campus, then we can increase their likelihood that they'll complete a college application, that they'll fill out a FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid, to let them know that it's possible they can go, and then of course, hopefully that they'll enroll in a higher ed situation. So we invited every minority senior that we have with a personal invitation. We paid for a bus. We took them up to Utah State, and they absolutely treated us like gold. They sat us down in a room, did presentations, showed kids how cool college is. We had minority admissions people there who talked to them, told them their story of their family, where they came from, how they overcame obstacles that these same kids face. They gave them a tour of the campus, took them to the Multicultural Center where they could see where they had access to not only people that are like them, but academic help, things that way. And we fed them lunch up there, which is always a highlight. Those kids, they get to go in there and eat whatever they want, and it takes us about an hour and a half to get them back out. But so they love that. We're still working on getting the data for the completing college applications and the FAFSA. We have some of that collected now. We're still working on it. There is a little bit of a hang up on how to collect that data. We're doing it by survey, but we're kind of finding out some of these kids are sort of telling us what we want to hear. But we need to wait a little bit. The universities, we get some reports back from local universities that tell us how many kids are enrolling or filling out applications. So we're working through that process. But just on a personal standpoint, we know of at least 2 or 3 students that we worked with who came back in to see us after these visits and talked about, how do I get in, what do we do? We took them back up there, we hooked them up with resources. And so I know in the last 2 years we've had at least 4 students that I think had no inclination of looking at college as an option that we've met with since then, and that are now, a couple are going this year and 2 last year actually enrolled. They're doing fabulously up there. So that's kind of our project. Are there any questions? And like I say, it's a 3-year process. We're going to do it again next year. If we can kind of sustain some funding, it really doesn't cost us a whole lot. We want to just keep doing it and kind of make it an annual thing, but we're going to keep collecting data for a couple of years.
Questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I know how busy counselors are. We really appreciate all you do for the students in our district. Thank you. Great.
So we just want to thank the board for your support of the program. We started this program back in 1990. That's when the state really started the Comprehensive Guidance Program. So we have been in it quite a while. Our counselors know what they're doing, and we have a great resource from them. And so I want them to introduce themselves quick and your school, where you're from, okay? Do I need to give them the mic? I guess I better.
Yeah, you better.
Just pass it down the row. Tell them where you are now, where you're going.
I'm Janine Justice, and I'm currently at North Cache, and next year I'll be at Skyview.
Bardette Bagley again, I'll at Skyview and we'll stay at Skyview.
Jake Hall, I'm at North Cache, and I'll be staying at North Cache next year.
Annette Hepworth, I'm at North Cache this year, and I'll be at North Cache again next year.
Joel Winkler, I'm at Spring Creek, and I will continue to be at Spring Creek.
Jennifer Loescher, I'm at Ridgeline, and I will stay at Ridgeline. Yay.
She came from White Pine.
Oh, yes.
Angela Wood, and I'm at Mountain Crest, and I'm going to stay at Mountain Crest.
Now,
Thanks
don't
again.
you share at Ridgeline too?
Yeah, I
Teaches
teach at
at Ridgeline.
Ridgeline right now.
Okay.
All right, thank you so much for all you do. Appreciate it.
So thank you, and at the next board meeting, then we'll ask for your board approval.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a question related to PCCRs, just that designation. Because House Bill 126 was signed into law at the end of March by the governor, and the effective date is the 9th of May, 2017. So we're past that day, and all of our policy that has SEOP or SEP is supposed to be changed to PCCR by the 9th of May, 2017.
Uh-oh.
Yes. Yeah.
Just so you know.
And you'll notice you don't see SEOP in any of this.
Right.
Yes,
But in our
we-
policy,
we do
it's
need
all
to
over the
change.
place.
Yes, it is all over in there, and just haven't got to it.
Okay, Larry.
Yeah.
Well, we'll
But
work
you're
on it.
right. I mean, that's
Thank you, Terry.
that's a true point.
Well, I appreciate that too, so I know that that's the same thing that the SEOP has been for years. So, okay, well, we'll work on that. Great. Okay, Dale.
This is just a quick financial report for the end of March. We haven't had this scheduled for the April board meeting, got canceled. So we'll have again the April report here, the next board meeting also. But, just, there really has not been any real change in our financial position from where we were the month prior. The one thing you notice in the report too is that we did add one additional column. The very first column of numbers on the left is the original budget that was approved by the board last June. And then we have what we call the working budget, which has all of the adjustments for carryover and changing state revenue and local revenue estimates as they occur throughout the year. All those adjustments will be shown in the working budget column. And then that budget then will be brought to the board here in June as a final legal budget. And we'll link that budget. That's the one we'll actually be measured by at year end when our financial reports are submitted. Again, we have about 85% of the general fund is made up of salaries and benefits. So that's why in the expenditure side of the report, we try to highlight both the salaries and the benefit in each of the function areas. And in almost all those cases, we're in excellent position of being actually ahead of where we were last year at the same point in time. So that the budget is showing that it is solid and should function fine for the remainder of the year. And then the only other report would be the very last page, which is the school lunch report. Again, just identifying there that we actually have, 9,000 more meals that had been served by the end of March than we had the year before. Probably on a per student basis, that's actually a little bit down, I think, from the prior year, just because of our growth. But again, overall in their operations, the second line from the bottom shows just a snapshot comparison that as of the end of March, with the revenues and expenditures, until then, they had average what it would have been 17 cents profit per meal, where a year ago at that same time, they were at 5%, or 5 cent per meal profit. So they are continuing to operate a solid position. And I talked to Scott recently about the requirement we have each year to make sure that our school lunch prices are not such that it's, that the federal funds are supplementing the regular fully paid meals. So that actually the ticket price for fully paid meals needs to be at or above the cost for each meal. And right now, it's actually a bit below, and so, you know, they've required us to keep raising our ticket prices each year. And I know that Scott will be presenting, I think, in the next board meeting, requesting that I believe it's a 5-cent increase that we're required to put in there, even though financially the program itself is solid. It's just that the ticket price isn't high enough that what they're paying is actually being supplemented by federal funds to cover the full cost of meals.
You might not know this, but what do they do with the extra food that's left over every day in every school?
Well, they can't reserve it if it's been prepared.
They just throw it away?
And I haven't been out in the program to tell you.
Okay, so I need to ask Scott that when he comes.
Maybe, Alan, you know, when you're out in school, I don't.
Well, I don't think anybody goes through it, you
No.
know. I
We
don't
don't
know
know?
what they do.
Okay.
I know we did look at the one item that you talked about, Terry. It was a kind of a food processing system that would
Compost
create
it.
a compost of the materials. And I know Scott looked through it. You can see cost is our advantage anyway, as far as what it would cost to put that in place as compared to what savings it might generate. And I would have to actually change it, I believe, use those styrofoam. There was two different things in there. One was you would have to use styrofoam serving utensils in place. Well, we don't do that, except for, I think, in just very few instances. But then the other was the actual process of composting the material. It took like 6 or 8 hours, I think, to process this material each day. But then you'd have to purchase all the equipment and build it into your tray cleaning line system. It would be fairly expensive, but it is green, very green.
And
So
reduces methane.
There's no way to use that for food pantry or anything like that at all?
I don't know what
Not
we'd
once
use.
it's been prepared.
Can't do
We
it.
use it in our greenhouses, I don't know.
That's too bad. Yeah, okay.
I have a question. So, most of our expenditures are on instructional costs, for teachers and, other staff, members, support staff and such. And so so this report is at 75% of the year, or is through. But all of those instructional, expenditures are at 60% or lower. Are the teachers on a longer than 9-month contract for salary? I mean,
What we do, this report actually is on a fiscal year basis, so it's starting as of July 1. Teachers don't actually start getting paid until the end of September.
oh, okay.
And then they have their annual salary spread out into 12 even payments. So actually, by April or May, they would have had 75% of their salary received. And then in June, they received three payments that would actually carry them through the summer of a June, July, August payment.
Oh, so that's how they get 12 payments, they get 3 at once at the beginning of the summer, okay.
Dale, is there enough data yet to get a feel for how the self-insurance is working?
We actually met with GBS Tuesday evening to review our data. Again, it only shows two quarters of experience, so we're half a year along the way. historically, the fourth quarter, which is the summer months, June, July, and August, are our highest claims because everyone is, well, most of them met their deductible at that point. And it's also a time probably when employees are off work, and so it's, if they had to schedule surgery, that's probably the best time for them. So that is our highest cost period. When we met with them, their actuaries stated that we were running very well. We were at a 78% loss ratio as of the end of, what would have been, March or April, I guess. Anyway, half the year. It started September.
Okay.
Anyway, so their projection was that, and it's very broad, they said, with as little data as we have, we seem to be functioning very well and on a real liberal, or I don't know what you wanna say,
Conservative.
a very positive sense. You could actually reduce your premiums 3%. But they said too, we don't have any reserves, we really don't have a lot of longevity in the data to know how it's gonna perform. So on the high end, they said we could go as high as an 8% increase in premiums. You choose what you want, somewhere between 3 and 8. But then they didn't recommend that we actually go with a 5% increase, and that's what we're actually building into next year's budget, is a 5% increase in premiums.
Okay.
But again, it's looking good. Nice thing we found out last year when insurance companies thought that we were a bad risk and we were getting poor renewal rates. We actually ended up the year with a 99% loss ratio. So that's money that we left on the table in that sense. Where now as a self-funded group, that money actually just retains in our reserves. We also had, when we finalized things with Select Health, we had about $330,000 balance in a contingency program that we had set up with them. So we actually received a check from them that we put directly into our new program's reserve, just carrying over unused funds from last year. So that was also a nice item, helps me sleep better at night. I think it's really going well, especially with
Good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Dale. Appreciate all you do on that. Okay, on the board committee reports, I just asked Alan if he would update us as far as he could on the salary negotiations.
Well, we've met a couple of times with them, and they gave us their list. We gave them our proposal. I shouldn't say our, the district did. And tonight we met, and they looked at the budget, and we made some proposals there, and they're meeting on that, but it's going very smoothly. I'd be surprised if we haven't got this settled before school's out. Really surprised. I think the next time we meet, it'll be done. Okay, and then I can bring you the information and show you exactly what it was.
Okay, that'll be great. Okay, on the board president report, a couple of things. I checked with the MBA program to see about the open law training, because I went online and I couldn't take it. They're creating a new open law training.
You mean we have to memorize another one?
Yes. So they will let me know when they have it up and going, and then everybody can go on and individually take that. Just a reminder, check your graduation assignments for speaking. If you have a conflict, let me know. If you have an RSVP to Kisa about the retirement dinner on May 16th at 6:30, RSVP if you're going or if you're not going, so she will have that information. And Mike said that we need to have our school improving plans read by our next meeting so we can approve those, so kind of keep that in mind. And I think the cards have been taken care of. The cookies came from the Girl Scouts. That's why you got cookies tonight. They sent us a little thank you note for, in recognition of our valuable contribution to the Girl Scouts of Utah. So I have no idea what that is, but somebody did something for us in that area. And then the last thing is I've given you a hard copy of the possible school board meeting ideas. And if you look at that, I've just kind of been collecting ideas from conferences and things that I've attended over the last little while. Would you, before you leave tonight, mark those that you are interested in having more information on? And then we can just kind of plug them into our meetings when there's time for them, and help to let that be our professional development. But there's also a place on the hard copy for you to write down anything else you'd like to learn about, that you have questions about, and we just maybe haven't had time or wasn't aware that we should talk about these subjects and get some information on it. That's all that I have. Any questions on that? Okay. Mr. Superintendent? hope all is going well.
I could interject here.
Okay.
Because I just got some info, but Roger probably already knows it. Are you HSAA or is Ellen?
I am.
That they approved lacrosse as a sanctioned sport for high schools
Oh, okay,
this week.
good.
I was at a meeting today and they didn't, but maybe it was before I got there.
I just heard that because I was at a USBE meeting earlier today, and they told me that.
Okay.
So it'll be interesting to find out if that's true. Maybe I'll put it in
And I
in the
didn't hear
paper
it,
tomorrow.
but I was only down there because of the elections to see who was going to be on that board with the way the legislature changed it. So I didn't have to be there till 1, so it might have been discussed before. And I did get elected to be the 4A representative for the state of Utah.
Great.
On
Congratulations.
UHSA.
Yeah, that's great.
Shall we pat you on the back or give you
Give you
condolences?
Give me a
or-
bottle of Tylenol.
Okay, that's everything that we have, unless anyone else has something we need to talk about that is not on the agenda. Yes?
I'm just going to provide, after you end, about a 10-minute training on, big rocks on
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the reminder. And thank you, everyone, for your committee work and things that you do in our district to support the teachers and the staff and the different individual schools that are in your areas or your precincts. Appreciate that so much. So we'll go ahead now and, yes,
Just a lacrosse update.
thank you.
Says they did take a baby step today towards sanctioning lacrosse. They sent it back out to their regions for input. This is the decision that was made today on whether or not regions would be in favor of sanctioning it.
So does that mean it's not a done deal then?
According to this, and this is today's article in the Tribune.
Oh,
Oh, just goes to show you cannot believe everything you hear at a USBE meeting.
okay, thank you.
More
You know,
fake news.
More fake news. One thing that's great about this group of people here is that everybody kind of has their expertise and their ear to the ground in different areas. And so it's nice in collecting all of the information from all the different areas. I know I could not possibly do it all, so I appreciate everybody keeping us updated on things. So with that in mind, we'll go ahead and take a motion for adjournment of this meeting, and we'll just stay right here for the training from Mike.
I make the motion, we adjourn the meeting then?
Second.
All in favor say yes?
Yes.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you to our press, too.
Sweet for me.
I'm going to go over this very quickly, so if I'm going too fast, just throw your hand up and say, slow down here, got a question. This is what I'd like you to refer to. Inside your book right there, there's a little, right behind the main cover, there's this handout. And what I'm going to do is just walk you through one school and just show you some things that you look at. And I decided I was not going to project it up. We'll just talk and I'll refer to you. I've put some numbers and a few things on here. And I wrote so tiny, I have to put my glasses on to see what I wrote. Okay? So I'm really going to walk you through the North Cache Middle School plan. And on this sheet, this is kind of a cheat sheet, the very front cover. And it's really going through the different categories in the plan. and I just put a little note or two under each one, and I'll show you where that corresponds on the North Cache plan. So the first item there, you see the goal. And typically, when a school puts a plan together, they'll have anywhere from 2 to 3 goals. There's not really a requirement that tells them exactly how many they have to have, but it's really up to the school. If you look at the North Cache plan, there's a goal on the first page, and there's goal number 2 on the second page. They have 2 goals. That's it, all right? Number 2, under the academic area on the plan, the goal should focus on the core academic improvement, their greatest academic need. So you look under the academic areas, generally, you're always going to see it as listed on the North Cache plan: reading, math, writing, and science. There's your core. And that's all they have to say is our plan. Now, they may only have reading or math, or they may have all 4. But they should only be listed in core areas right there. The third one, measurements. They put a statement down there under measurement, and so what you look for when you read the measurement is this: does the measurement list specific benchmarks? Are they measurable? If they're general, it'll come back to us listing that. So as you read the measurement, can you really see that there's an improvement in there that you can quantify? Can you measure what they say they're going to do? The next part, underneath measurement, under 4A on my cheat sheet, it says action plan step expenditures. So the question when you look at that under the action plan step is this: is each budgeted description listed in the action plan step? So if you look at North Cache's action plan step, I've put pencil marked there in, you can see on this page, 8 different areas. You see the 8 little notes? All right? So, because like they say, their action plan, number 1 says they're going to hire aides. Number 2 says they're going to send teachers to Solution Tree. The third one, they're going to purchase Chromebooks. 4th, you can read, okay? That's their action plan steps. Okay, so I just went through and just made a little note under each one. They said, this is what we're going to do, dot, 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 dot. Now, if you go down to 4A again, the action plan step expenditure, this is where usually they'll run into problems. So up in the action step plan, I identified the 8 different things that they said they were going to do. You following me there? The 8 little marks? Now I go down into the budget area, and can I see all 8 of those? Did they actually allocate funds for all 8 of those areas?
Is that on the right-hand side, what the estimated cost is?
What's that?
Is that the estimated?
Right here.
In the middle on the descriptions.
Yeah, right on the bottom. So if you're under expenditures, do you see where I put a number 1? Says we will hire 8 classroom aides. That's number 1 up in the action plan. Yep, they sync, right? Said they were going to do it. Now they allocated money against it on there. And you follow that through. I try to find all 8 of those in their budget.
So Mike, is it reasonable to assume that there is an opportunity where they could do an improvement without a cost, or
Yes.
to trade? Okay.
Yeah, yep. They don't have to throw money at everything. Now, so when I went through and I looked at their expenditures, did I find all 8 of them?
No.
Now, this continues on to the second page, just on the very top of the second page, okay? And I put a little number by each one of those budget things. Were every one of them covered?
Not number 2.
2 was not there. Because up above, they said 2, they're going to send teachers to Solution Tree. It's not down there listed. There's something you could pick up right there.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do when you crosswalk, okay? What they said they're going to do, and did they address it in the budget, okay?
And if they didn't, maybe there's an explanation about how they would do it without
Yeah.
funding, right?
Yeah, but I'm going to point something out to you here on this particular plan. Now I'm on the second page. Now I'm going to goal 2. Do you see what his goal 2 is talking about? Says we'll send 10 teachers to Solution Tree. So he duplicated the goal. Now, in this one, though, he actually funded it under goal 2. So he shouldn't have put it in 1.
Okay.
Can you do this training for the principals too?
I will, yeah. You know, because you sit down and you play with it here a little bit. But anyway, you can see how you have to crosswalk it just a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
All right? And then, so goal number 2, like the comment I made here in pencil, this is listed in goal 1, but not funded. All right? So those are the kind of notes that you would probably try to make as you're going through and you're reviewing it. Now, on goal number 2, I just made another comment. You go down to measurement. I put down here, it says indirectly, we will ask our PLCs to produce da-da-da-da-da. The question I put in there is, which PLCs? Do you want to know which ones? That's what I picked up when I read it. I'm sure he's not going to ask every one of them to do it. That's just something that I brought up.
Sure.
Under the action plan on number 2, trained teachers and administrators train the faculty on the process. Okay, when? See, I need to pin them down just a little bit. That's a pretty vague statement, okay? Are they going to use it one of their PD days? Are they going to do something? You know, when are they going to do it? And the next one, departments will practice newly acquired skills and knowledge. And I simply put down, well, how? Maybe that should have been explained just a little bit farther on that. So those are the kind of things that I look at when I'm reviewing this plan. Now, I'm back to my cheat sheet again. Number 6 on the cheat sheet says funding estimates. So now this is on the 3rd page of the North Cache plan. Well, it really starts on the very bottom of the 2nd page where it says funding estimates. Then it goes to the top of the 3rd page. This is where you actually take a look and you can see the estimates. They estimate a carryover from this current year. This is something you really want to look at. How much is that school carrying over? Why didn't they spend their money? Okay, so you're just looking at that and you're going to ask the question. Now, North Cache says he's projecting only $152. That's pretty darn close budgeting. Okay, we try to give them the target. You know, don't carry over any more than about 10%. Because then the state and everybody else starts asking questions if they're not spending their money. And then you can see their distribution for 17-18, you add them together, there's all their funds for the year. Okay, and that's how they're supposed to budget all of that money. Then they ask them the question on number 7 on my cheat sheet, what would you do if you had additional funds provided? It's usually just a very quick, short statement there. What would they do? And my comment on here is, if they're allocated additional funds, what you look for, are they tying it to one of their goals? So in here, is North Cache tying it to goal 1 or goal 2? That's what you look at real quick. And a note that I put on here with that one, just the way they worded it. If we have an increased distribution, we could spend it on goal 1. They should probably be a little more definite.
Yeah, would sounds better.
Okay? Looks a little wishy.
Okay.
You know, they should really focus and say, we will spend it on that if we receive. And last year that did happen. We did receive additional trust lands funds that came in. And so they went right out to the schools, and then the schools were expected then to do exactly what they said there. All right? Now I'm back to my cheat sheet again. It says number 8, publicity, and you can see it on the plan. How are they telling their patrons about their program, their trust lands funds? You can see what North Cache put there. I'm not telling you what the right answer is, but you can see what they did, what they tried to do. Number 9, council plan approval. So what you look for on there is, did you really get a good vote there of people? We're only 2 there to approve the plan. That'd be a problem. Yeah. Okay? But they said they had 10 there, and all 10 of them supported it, and 1 was absent. So that tells you that's pretty good consensus.
I went to a school's community council, and I think they only had 1 parent there when they approved it, 3 teachers.
Well, it depends, this makes up the entire council. Okay, now, I don't know how, if they only had one parent there, you know, the parents are supposed to be more than half of the committee. They shouldn't have, in my opinion, they should have waited till they had, because they didn't have the majority of their parents there to approve the plan.
So what would you do on this? Okay, say the number that approved it was 4.
Yeah.
And we don't know if their parents or
Yeah.
students.
So next, in 2 weeks from now, if you see something like that, I would ask those principals when they're here, tell me how you're going to improve that. If
So
this
we're-
is really what happened,
And all that data's in this book right now?
yeah.
Okay.
Every one of these plans that I'm showing, like North Cache, is in this book.
Okay,
right now,
perfect.
Okay? And I'm just showing you how I looked at North Cache.
No, I really appreciate this, Mike. Thank you.
All right.
This is good.
Are the principals prepared for us to comment?
I'm telling them you're looking at, they're looking at your plans and our expectations for them to be here. And if you have a question, you should ask them a
So,
question.
Mike, would you communicate with them beforehand? Like, if I start reviewing this tonight and go through the schools that I've been assigned, would I communicate that beforehand, before they get to the meeting, so they've
I
got-
will, just shoot them an email and
Okay,
say, you
'cause
know,
that's what I was gonna
I'm
do.
gonna ask you that.
Okay.
You know, and really, the whole idea is it's the board's responsibility to review these plans.
Mhm.
I think you're just showing good faith in reviewing the plans.
Hmm.
That's what you're asked to do, okay? Then the last part on here are the comments. And the comments are made by the district or the state. Because we can actually go in and review the plan, make comments, and the principals can see these comments. Now, what happened on particularly here on the North Cache plan, you can see some comments down there. There's one made out of my office and one by Paula Pland out of the state. Paula should not have started reviewing these plans until the board first reviewed these plans. And Paula said, oh, I shouldn't have done that. So she actually had already looked at 5 plans and started making comments, and we stopped her, said, no, you wait till we get the board approval
She can
on
do
it.
my schools and I'll take a look at it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay, but that, you know, that's what you're looking for. The school improvement plans, you know, all they are, and I put a definition for you on the bottom of that cheat sheet. They are, it's really a more detailed explanation of how they're going to spend their trust lands plan. This plan that we just reviewed, you know, how, and what were the results of it?
Yeah.
That's, the state does not review the school improvement plan. That is strictly information held at the district level. They only review the trust lands plan.
Okay, so do we have to look then at the school?
You do not have to look at it, but it's required for them to submit it along with their school trust lands. And if you want to read what they did, it shows you some results and some things that, based on results, they're going to tweak a few more things. It's just information for you.
A problem with, why am I getting the same information twice? Why
Yep.
am I getting the same
Yep.
information twice? And it seems like a lot of work for the principals or whoever does it.
Yep.
To have to do that. Okay, so now I finally get that.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah. On the back of my cheat sheet, it tells you, this is statewide, a list there, expenditures that have not been allowed, and examples of approved. So just another thing for you to look at. If you're questioning, can they really spend money on this? Well, there's some guides right there, what they can and cannot spend the money on. So that's it. There's just some quick training.
Thank you for the cheat sheet.
That's great.
It's like the Cliff Notes, right? That's-
Yeah.
Thanks for your work, Mike.
That'll make a big difference.
That will help a lot.
Okay.
Okay, before you go, give me your suggestions on the meeting ideas, and should you and I just think for a minute, we
Yeah.
got a couple of things that.
Yeah.
Mike, before you go, let me ask one more question here. It says, on number 4, four short throw projectors and whiteboards. And then over here it says audio-visual equipment, in non-classroom locations. Got it. Okay. That's what makes that difference.
I'll tell you, the most tricky part that state looks at is linking the budget to the action step plan. Do they see it? Did they get something and budgeted for something that's not in that action? That's what the state parties are. That's what we make the question.
We've got 2 weeks.
Yeah.
process is working. These plans are going to go to the state as they're seeing, and they're going to come back from the state, but we're going to see some of these comments. But then they correct them, and the principals correct them, comments, and then they're ready for it.
Okay. All right, so they won't be offended?
No,
Okay,
no,
because this is supposed to be helpful to them.
yes.
All right.
More importantly, they know that you're involved in what they're putting down.
Oh, thank you. Everybody needs an editor, especially me. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ken, good job.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so on this, we've already got the introduction, we've got the mission statement, vision statement, 30-second statement I thought would be good to put in there.
Okay.
Okay, Ken, how do
Core
I
values, I
shut
think
this
we have
down
that.
so it doesn't
Mhm.
say
Now,
it's shut down in
I gave you the book.
Yes, this one right here.
That has
Got
some
it.
notes
I
from
just
me
saw
that
it.
were really scribbled.
Okay.
Which is my style, the scribbling. If you can't read them, email me.
Okay.
What couple of these right now would you like to work on? I actually have some copies.
Too sweet.
These right here that I can look at from the district somewhere.
Okay.
And this was the book that Steve was reading, some information. Okay, so then it would be starting from about here, just choose a couple of them that you might wanna, just look at in hand, kind of.
Jen the
adapt